We had our UK security.
So Harry's now speaking like an American?
This is just how it is.
I'm in shock. Last week, Meghan Markle and Prince Harry shocked the world with some of the most unexpected English pronunciation the world has ever seen. As I watched the Harry and Meghan interview, I sat in disbelief for 2 whole hours as they dropped bombshell after bombshell after bombshell of unbelievable English pronunciation content that we can use to speak English like a native. I heard Prince Harry say things that I never thought I'd hear a British royal say, and some of the things that Meghan Markle said will change the way that you speak English forever. So if you want to speak English like a native, or like Prince Harry, or like Meghan Markle, then in this English pronunciation tutorial, you're going to discover the top 10 things that you can learn from the Harry and Meghan interview to speak English like a native. Make sure to stay until the end of the video for the practice exercises, and let me know in the comments below whose side you are on, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's or the British royal families. Let's dive in.
You do.
The biggest concern was that while we were in Canada, in someone else's house, I then got told, short notice, that security was going to be removed.
Anyone who's watched my channel on how to speak English like a native for any length of time will know that one of the most important sounds to get right in English to speak English like a native is the O diphthong. And what's very interesting is listen to Prince Harry's pronunciation of the O diphthong in the word told. I want you to listen to it, and then I'm going to tell you what you need to be aware of.
I then got told. What
you might notice there is what Prince Harry is doing is he's not actually saying the full O diphthong. He's saying more of an O diphthong. O, O. And the reason for that is because after the O diphthong in this word is a dark L. When you get the dark L after the O diphthong, it changes the sound of the O diphthong. So instead of getting O, old, told, instead what you get is O, O, O. You start your lips in a slightly more rounded position, a bit more like an O sound. O, O, instead of O, O, O. Let me just compare how Prince Harry has said the O diphthong in the word told to how he said it in a different word without the dark L after it.
The borders could be closed. We're going to have our security removed. Who knows?
2 words there. The borders will be closed. O. And he said, who knows? O, O. So in these 2 words, he said it properly. And in the word told, where it's come before the L, he said it properly as well, but he's let the dark L take its effect on the O diphthong, which means that when you start the O diphthong, you start it in a more rounded position. Told, told, instead of told, told. If he was to pronounce it in the O way before the L sound, old, that would make him sound a little bit old-fashioned in English, okay? If you heard an older member of the royal family speaking English, you might hear them pronouncing it like this, old. But in modern day received pronunciation, we tend to pronounce the O diphthong before an L sound as more of an O, old, old, old.
I then got told. By this point, courtesy of the Daily Mail, the world knew our exact location. So suddenly it dawned on me, hang on a second, the borders could be closed. We're going to have our security removed.
This is very interesting. Listen to how Prince Harry has said the word security.
We're going to have our security removed. We're going to have our security removed. We're going to have our security removed.
What Prince Harry has done here is he's pronounced the word security with a D pronunciation, security, instead of security. Now, this surprised me quite a lot, and there's 2 reasons why this could happen. First of all, pronouncing the T sound like a D sound, as Prince Harry has done here, is a very common trait of American English pronunciation. Sometimes we do it in British English if we're speaking quite lazily or very quickly. So it could be because of that. But the reason why I think he's actually done it here, and there's lots of other examples where he does it in the Harry and Meghan interview, is because he's with Meghan. As everyone watching this will know, when you are spending time with someone who speaks your language but with a slightly different accent to yours, you will often start to take things from their accent and put them into your accent. Meghan is an American English speaker, and Meghan, by default, would pronounce this word security with a D. I believe that because Harry is living with Meghan and has been with her for quite some time, he has taken this and naturally just let it come into his English pronunciation. He's not done it consciously. It's just naturally as a result of spending time with an American English speaker. That's why I believe that I've heard that here, because for Harry, who's come from a very posh background and will have learnt very traditional and proper native English received pronunciation, to hear him dropping the T sound and turning it into a D here, to me sounds a little bit unexpected. It's a bit unusual. So let me just give you a couple of other examples of Meghan saying it and Oprah saying it, who are native American English speakers, so you can see the similarity between what Harry has done and the American way of doing this.
Have holiday parties, have holiday parties, have holiday parties.
Listen here how Meghan has turned that into a D, holiday parties, instead of holiday parties. And listen to how Oprah says the same word, security, but just like Prince Harry has said it, which is the American way. Listen for Oprah saying security.
So what security did you have at the time?
Did you hear that? What security did you have at the time? So if you want to speak English with a British accent, I highly recommend, wherever possible, not dropping the T and turning it into a D. In British English, it can come across as a little bit lazy, like I said. We still do it in British English every now and then, but it's certainly more of an unintentional thing. Likewise, if you want to speak English with an American accent, then say it as all three of them have done it here, Harry, Meghan and Oprah, drop the T and turn it into a D.
We're going to have our security removed. We're going to have our security removed. We're going to have our security removed. We both did, separately and together.
So you left because you were asking for help and couldn't get it?
Yeah, basically.
What's interesting here is Harry has said, yeah, basically. He's answered Oprah's question with the answer yes, but he's pronounced the yes as yeah, with a P sound instead. Now, yeah is a common way to say the word yes in English, but it's much more informal. So again, I'm very surprised to see Harry using the word yep in an interview, in a formal interview, especially given that he's a member of the British royal family. The one reason why I think he's done that here is because of assimilation. So the next word that Harry has said is basically. He said, yeah, basically. The P sound and the B sound come from exactly the same lip position. So to make this block of two English words easier to say, Harry has said, yeah, basically, which is easier to say than saying yes, basically. Because if you say yes, basically with the S sound, you have to do more work with your tongue and lips to transition between the two sounds. So I'm putting this down as an example of English assimilation, which happens all over English. It's a very common thing that native English speakers do to speak English a bit more easily. And British speakers do it, American English speakers do it, all English speakers do it. And that's the reason why I think Harry has done it here and said, yeah, basically, instead of what would be yes, basically, if he was intentionally trying to sound much more formal and much more correct by how the dictionary pronounces these words in English.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, basically. Yeah, basically. And what I was seeing was history repeating itself, but more perhaps, or definitely far more dangerous, because then you add race in and you add social media in. And when I'm talking about history repeating itself, I'm talking about my mother.
What Harry has done here is he has used the formal way of saying mum. He said mother. This is because of his formal upbringing, okay, where In English, there's different ways you can refer to your mum, your dad, your grandma. Those three ways there, mum, dad, grandma, or nan, mum, dad, and nan, are informal ways of saying mother, father, and grandmother. If I was doing an interview on TV and I was talking about my mum, my dad, or my grandma, I would use the slightly less formal versions of those words, mum, dad, grandma. It's because in any informal or relaxed situation, that is probably how you would refer to your mum or your dad or your grandma. It would come across as a bit unnatural for any normal person to refer to their mum, dad, or grandma as mother, father, or grandfather. And the reason why I think Prince Harry has done it here is because of his very formal upbringing. So when you're talking about your mum, dad, or grandma, I would recommend using those words or nan instead of grandma. People in the UK tend to use the word nan just as much as grandma, but mother, father, grandmother, it's a little bit formal, and I would recommend that you don't use it when you're speaking English.
3 conversations with my grandmother, 3 conversations with my grandmother, 3 conversations with my grandmother. Telling parts, the saddest parts, I guess, was over 70 members of parliament, female members of parliament.
Right, what's really interesting here is how Harry has pronounced the T sound at the end of parliament in 2 different ways. There are 3 ways that people tend to pronounce the T sound at the end of words. One is incorrect, and the other 2 ways are correct. Harry's done both the correct ways. It's very common for learners of English to pronounce the other way, which isn't correct. So what Harry has done is the first time he's pronounced parliament, he's gone into the T sound at the end of the word, but he's not released the sound. He's not said parliament. Okay, he's just gone into it, paused airflow, and then that's the end of the word. Let me play it to you.
Over 70 members of parliament, female members of parliament.
Do you hear that? Parliament, parliament, parliament. The tongue's going into position, but then he's not released the sound. This is how we like plosives at the end of words. If the plosive was at the beginning of a word, obviously he'd release it, but at the end of the word, going into it and pausing is great. But then just seconds later, he does it the other way, which is also okay. And that's when you go into it, you pause airflow, and then you make a small release of air, like this. Parliament, parliament. That's okay. What would be wrong is if he turned that into a big release of air and essentially made another syllable like this. Parliament. So watch him here do it the other way. That's also correct.
Female members of parliament.
Do you hear that there? A small plosive release. Parliament, parliament, parliament.
It's a very trapping environment.
You were ashamed of admitting that Meghan needed help.
Here's another example of Harry doing it with a different word, where he goes into the T sound but doesn't release it.
Trapping environment.
Environment. And here are some other examples of Harry and Oprah doing this with the other plosives in English, because this applies to all 6 plosive sounds in English, not just the T sound. So listen here to Oprah saying help. She makes a small plosive release on the word help.
Meghan needed help. Meghan needed help. Meghan needed help.
And here's Harry saying it with the D sound, had, had, had. Listen out for the small amount of airflow released at the end of the D sound.
Would be had, would be had, would be had.
Do you hear that? Had. So make sure that when you're saying plosive sounds at the end of words, you're going into position, pausing airflow, and then either stopping it there or allowing there to be a little bit of airflow released, but not a full amount of airflow to be released, which would then sound like another syllable.
I didn't have anyone to turn to.
The next point that I want to mention is a very important point for speaking English like a native, and that's placement and how English comes and sounds in the mouth. When we speak English, we have a lot of sounds that are open and closed, and we want our jaw to be opening and going up and down quite a lot when we speak. I know from working one-to-one with my private English pronunciation clients that they often find it hard to let their jaw drop down and make more open vowel sounds in English. And as a result, they're trying to make all the sounds with their mouths as closed as possible, okay? Or they're not even trying to do it with their mouths as close as possible, But just naturally, because of the way they speak their native language, their mouth is normally quite closed. Watch here as Harry says the word to, and he really lets his jaw just drop down.
Turn to, turn to, turn to.
Do you hear that? Turn to, turn to, turn to. What you can hear is Harry's jaw is very relaxed there, and he's just letting it drop. He's not forcing the jaw down, where he's using tension to do it. Essentially, he's just letting gravity do its work, and gravity itself is letting the jaw drop down in a really nice and relaxed way. I would highly recommend that when you're speaking English, you practice letting your jaw drop as much as possible. Practice making noise with your jaw just relaxed and completely open. And focusing on doing this without tension in your jaw is going to be really, really effective. It might take a little bit of practice. It might feel unnatural, but it will really change the sound of your English and make it sound a lot more natural and a lot more relaxed.
Emma stuck in.
You were ashamed of admitting that Meghan needed help.
Yeah. And I didn't have anyone to turn to.
Okay, what's really interesting here is Harry has made the thinking noise in English. The reason why I'm mentioning this is because this is something that I work with all my private clients in my coaching program with. Okay, in nearly every language, you make a noise when you're thinking. Okay, it could be something like etto or anno, or at least that's how I heard a lot of people doing it when I was living in Japan. In English, when we're thinking, we generally make the sound, or we add an M sound onto the end of that and say, and that's what Prince Harry has done here. Just listen to this back. Can you hear, when you're speaking English, there's going to be times when you need to be thinking. And if you can make the thinking noise, this is a really good way to be speaking English more like a native. And it's also a good way that you can practice the last exercise of having your mouth more relaxed and down. And finally, the third benefit of practicing this is the sound in English is one of the most important sounds to be able to pronounce clearly in words. Most learners of English don't pronounce this sound as a native English speaker would. And yet, if you pronounce it clearly, which you can do with a little bit of practice, it's going to really, really help the overall sound of your English. So, or Harry's done really nicely here, and I recommend that you do it too when you're thinking in English.
You know, we've got some very close friends that have been with us through this whole process.
Okay, what we've got here is a really good example of Prince Harry making the English TH sounds really nice and clearly, as of course a native English speaker would. So the two TH sounds are very difficult for most learners of English because most languages don't have fricative sounds where the TH sound, the tongue, comes out in between your teeth. And as a result, most learners of English will pronounce the TH sounds and as either a T sound and a D sound, t, d, or an S sound and a Z sound, s, z. So what we've got here is Prince Harry saying both of the TH sounds a number of times in very quick succession. So it's a really good opportunity to practice your TH sounds along with Prince Harry here and practice making them just like he is. Make sure your tongue is coming out in between your teeth. I've got step-by-step tutorials on how to make the TH sounds. I've got a number of videos and a playlist on them. So check this out if you need help with this. But follow along with Prince Harry here. Listen to how he's making it. He's doing it with perfect English pronunciation.
But for the family.
Now follow along with him saying they have this mentality. So you've got two voiced TH sounds there. They have this mentality.
They very much have this mentality of. They very much have this mentality of. They very much have this mentality of.
And finally, listen to him saying, this is how it is.
This is just how it is. This is just how it is. This is just how it is.
So there you have some really good examples of how to pronounce the TH sound. Follow along with Prince Harry. Watch my playlist on the TH sounds if you want to pronounce these sounds like a native. Let's carry on with the next point.
You know, unlike what you see in the movies, there's no class on how to speak, how to...
Okay, what's really interesting here is how Meghan has said how to. In very quick succession, she said how to with very different pronunciation. Listen to how she says how to again, and listen to how she says it differently both times.
Class on how to speak, how to...
Class on how to speak, how to... Class on how to speak, how to...
The first time she says how to, she says to with the strong pronunciation. She says to, where she makes a T sound and a long oo vowel sound. The second time she says it with more of a weak pronunciation and more of a schwa sound. How to. This is how we say the word to the majority of the time in English, because unless we're going to intentionally stress the word to, for example, I'm going to the gym, not from the gym, unless we're stressing the word to, we would simply use it as a word to make the sentence grammatically correct, but it's not a word that would need to be in there to really give the main meaning of the sentence. So as a result, what would happen is to would have its weak pronunciation to, and we would then stress whatever's coming after it. For example, to the gym or to the office, right? The noun that comes after to or to the is what would get the stress. So I recommend practicing like Meghan has done here, both forms, how to and how to. Okay. The reason why Meghan has extended how to the first time and used its strong pronunciation is because she's thinking about what to say next. So in an earlier example, I gave you the thinking noise in English, or but you can also, if you're not sure what to say next and you're thinking as you're saying the word that comes before it, you can say the word that comes before it and just extend it a little bit. Okay, so that's why Meghan has said how to. You can clearly tell that she's thinking there. Practice that you're imagining feeling like Meghan is feeling here, where she's thinking about what she's going to say. And again, doing this and taking it like Meghan has said here is going to enable you to do this in your own English speaking, which is really going to help you to sound like a native. Using the thinking noises and using the weak forms of words where you should be using the weak forms of words, as in how to, is very, very important for speaking English like a native.
For my family to show some public support.
Okay, so what I want to do here is train you on English stress. This is a really good example of what Harry has done here. It's a really good example of him using English stress. Listen to how he said, to show some public support. Can you hear there how he stressed three words? Show, public, support. Show some public support. He stressed the stressed syllables in those words. So pub in public, port in support. And what he's done here, and this is just a great example of giving English its rhythm. If he was giving even stress to all of these syllables, he would say, to show some public support. To show some public support. Whereas what he's done is he's used the weak form of to, which we talked about a moment ago, to. He's then gone up in stress for show, to show, to show, to show. Then some is unstressed because it's not one of the most important words in this phrase. Then public is stressed, especially the stressed syllable in public. To show some public, to show some public, to show some public. Lick is unstressed. Sir in support is also unstressed, but then port is stressed. So you get to show some public support. To show some public support. Just watch back and see if you can hear the stress as he does this.
To show some public support. 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 To show some public support.
I would really, really, really recommend, if you want to improve your English rhythm and the sound of your English overall, to practice English stress. Whenever we use the weak form of to, if a noun comes after it, for example, the gym, to the gym, we would then probably stress the word gym. Or if we're going to put a verb after it, like show or eat or go, you're going to stress that verb. So he's stressed show here. So what I would recommend that you do is write down 20 verbs that you know that you use every day. Practice the weak form of to with stressed pronunciation of whichever verb you're going to add after it. For example, to eat. I'm going to eat. I'm going to walk. I'm going to run. I'm going to laugh. I'm going to watch. I'm going to cry. Okay? Practice this because English rhythm and stress is one of the most important things for speaking English like a native. It's so important. And even if you've got perfect pronunciation of all the sounds in English, without good stress, your English is still not going to sound quite like a native's. Okay, so doing this is very, very important to speak English like a native. Let's now look at an example of Meghan using English stress really nicely, and we can follow along with her too.
I left my career, my life, I left everything.
Listen here to Meghan saying, I left my career, my life, and she stresses the words left, career, and life. Left has less stress than career and life because these are the two main things that she's trying to get across in this phrase. So listen to how she says, I left my career, my life. She also uses really good intonation, upwards intonation on the words career and life to show that there's more coming in the phrase. You know from the fact that she's gone up there that she's going to say more. I left my career, my life. It's like she's giving a list. If you give a list of things in English to show that there's more to come, you're going to use an upwards intonation. So listen here and follow along to Meghan saying this phrase.
I left my career, my life. I left my career, my life. I left my career, my life.
Do this and you will massively, massively improve the sound of your English speaking. Now, before we get to the bonus tip, which is really, really important, leave a comment below letting me know what your main takeaway is from this video. What are you going to practice implementing into your English speech to speak more like a native? And what did you think of the Meghan Harry interview? Whose side are you on, Meghan and Harry's or the British royal families? Leave a comment below letting me know. We've just seen 10 things that you can start doing today to speak English like a native. However, there are 7 sounds in English that will stop you from sounding like a native, even if you do everything that you've learned here. These 7 sounds are sounds that you probably don't know that you're mispronouncing, and yet they can completely transform the sound of your English and make you sound very unnative when you're speaking English. So to see what those 7 sounds are, to see step by step how to make them, and to see me analysing a non-native English speaker who pronounces these sounds in the way that you're probably pronouncing them right now, then watch this video right here where you're going to discover all of that and more and see how you can take these 7 sounds, put them into your English right away so that you start sounding even more like a native English speaker. So check this video out right now and I will see you here in just a moment.